Okay, we're looking at the legitimate chances that the Mariners actually have to make the playoffs this year. We have 19 games to go. We are currently 2 games back of the Yankees, 2 games back of the Astros, and I believe it's 4 games back of the Blue Jays. So there's really 2 pathways we can take. So we're completely ignoring the NL. And we're going to completely ignore spots 1, 2, and 3, mostly the A's, because we can't take these spots. And we're going to assume that the Mariners do not catch the A's or any team that's 5 or more games ahead of them. So we're going to assume they can't catch the Twins, the Indians, or the White Sox, because that's going to be some magical kind of stuff. And quite frankly, this is not the 95 Mariners, who had 30-year-old Joey Cora, 32-year-old Edgar Martinez, 25-year-old Griffey, 31-year-old Randy Johnson. They had guys in their prime. This was a loaded team that, yes, had a miracle run, also had an Angels epic collapse. However, that's not what we have this year. Basically, the Yankees and the Astros are tanking right now. They are both struggling. The one thing we do know is that these struggles won't last the rest of the year. And the Mariners' hot streak, which is 6 games in a row now, will not last the rest of the year. So we've got to think there's 2 different possibilities the Mariners make the playoffs. One is by catching either the Yankees or the Blue Jays for the second wildcard spot. The Blue Jays, even though they're a little bit ahead, we're going to keep them in there, and I'll tell you why in a second. The second way they can get to the playoffs is catching the Astros, who are only 2 games ahead in their division. And the thing is, if they catch the Astros, they're automatically in as a 4, 5, or 6 seed, most likely the 6, because they would be second place in their division. And we'll look at both situations. So we are ignoring the Orioles, even though, yes, they definitely have as much a chance as we do as making the playoffs. And yes, we're avoiding the Angels, because as much as they're on a roll just like us, if they end up making the playoffs, crazy stuff has happened. So we're going to ignore the Angels and the Orioles, both who have legitimate playoff chances, but that will make things easier. So the first route we can take is a wild card. I've already said we're not getting a 7th seed, but that 8th seed will be available, and it looks like it's going to be a battle between the Yankees, the Orioles, and the Blue Jays. Again, we're ignoring the Orioles, but the Yankees and the Blue Jays have something interesting. So with 19 games to go, they just played today and the Blue Jays won. But let's look at their schedule. The Blue Jays play Yankees, 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 Yankees. 9 more games still against the Yankees. And obviously the Yankees have the same thing where they're playing the Blue Jays. That means there's 9 losses between those 2 teams. So even if, guaranteed 9 losses between the 2 teams. So if they split the series and go 5-5, including today's game overall, both teams losing at least 5 games. Or if it goes skewed one way or the other, where the Yankees win 9 or 8 of them, then the Blue Jays are very much ripe for the taking, where we can pass them. So this situation, by going through the Yankees or the Blue Jays, is a great one. The Yankees have been hurt all year. Players keep getting hurt, and are just struggling. Although Torres was back now, and Clint Frazier, I know I saw, was back. The Blue Jays have been hot as anybody. Just lost Teoscar Hernandez, which is a big deal, but then also he's not even their biggest bat. So they are still in a great situation, but look at their schedule. They have the Yankees, we said, 10 times, or 9 times now. 3 against the Mets, who have great pitching. 4 against the Phillies, who are great. And look at this. 3 games versus the Yankees. Why does it keep coming over that? 3 games versus the Yankees. 2 against the Phillies. 1 against the Phillies. Another 1 against the Phillies. Then 4 more against the Yankees. So in their last, 12 days, they play 13 games. Almost all of those are against playoff competitors, just depending on how you consider the Orioles. The Blue Jays have just passed their pretty part of their schedule. Boston, 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 Miami. Boston, 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 Baltimore. They haven't played a good team in a while. They are ripe for falling apart. especially with this killer last schedule. So even though Toronto's 4 games ahead of us, they could easily end up in this spot, just them and the Yankees flip-flopping. It just takes the Yankees pulling themselves together some. The Yankees, on the other hand, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Marlins. Their schedule gets easier. I hate to say it because I know the Blue Jays beat them today and the Blue Jays are playing well and the Blue Jays might play the Yankees tough. But the best bet to catch the Yankees or the Blue Jays for a wild card, is probably going to end up being catching the Blue Jays, which means we got to be Yankees fans for that. Obviously, it still works out. It's possible the Yankees continue to struggle, and we're only 2 games behind them right now. I just don't see that happening. I do see the Blue Jays possibly falling apart, though. Now let's look at what's going to happen in the AL West. So if you're looking at regular standings, by the way, if you look these up on MLB.com, they're usually a day late, so make sure to double check the date when you check their postseason standings. So here we're really just looking at that 7 and 8 spot, which is out of any 3rd and 4th place teams. When we look at the division standings, these are more important than most years, because not only is a 1st place spot in the division guaranteed in the playoffs, but so is the 2nd. So again, we're crossing out Oakland, we're not even looking at them. It doesn't matter if every single team up here wins every single game over the end of the year. If we catch the Astros, even if we go 25 and 35, if we finish in 2nd place, we're in the playoffs and we're guaranteed a 4th, 5th, or 6th seed. So there's a couple things we look at over here. First of all, the nice thing is there's no teams in between us, so it's not like if we catch them, we also have to hope we catch the Angels at the same time. So there's no teams in between us, which is great. The Angels are still there, and they're streaking like us. When you look at this, Astros have lost 5 in a row. We've won 6 in a row. We're not going to continue winning every single game in a row the rest of the year. They're not going to continue losing every game in a row the rest of the year. So can we close that gap, even though we're going to lose a few games coming up? Even though they're going to win some games coming up. The other thing we look at is our run difference. Generally, this means over a long season that a team with a lower run differential usually ends up getting caught by a team with a lower one catches the team with a higher run differential. With it not being 162 games, this isn't a big deal. However, this is not a good sign for us. It shows that we're weaker than most of these teams around us, despite the fact that our record has been pretty decent. So in looking at catching the Astros in 2 games, sorry, I'm kind of jumping and bouncing back and forth. The big reason why this is possible is the Astros injured list, which is growing and growing and growing. So Pruitt, Armenteros, they weren't really key figures you were looking for anyway this year. Osuna has a chance of coming back. He's on this 45-day IL this year. It's just listed as 60, but it is a 45-day. So he could come back, just like Mitch Haniger could come back and be great for the Mariners. Honestly, it's not going to happen. Yordan Alvarez is already said to be out for the year. Verlander is, again, he's pitching on the mound. He could be back. So yes, he could be back in a week or so, but it's going to be at least a week, so he maybe gets 1 or 2 starts if he does come back. And a player's first couple starts from the IL are usually not good. James is still out for a while, I think. Bregman is just about back, but really we're not too worried about the bats, and I'm not because it's not a great lineup. But Altuve's out for a while. Reddick got hurt yesterday, day to day. The thing is, any kind of 10-day injured list could easily cost a player their season now with only, 20 days to go before the playoffs. So when McCullers went on the injured list the other day, and you're saying at least 10 days, and you've got to think he needs an extra start you're talking maybe 1 start from him. And even that start would probably be limited like 3 to 4 innings just to get him warmed up for the playoffs, assuming they would make it. But the biggest weakness the Astros had this year was they would be fine as long as they had solid pitching. And they had Justin Verlander, they had Zach Greinke, and they had Lance McCullers coming back. So even losing Garrett Cole last year wasn't a big deal. However, Verlander being out most of the year, and honestly, he's probably not going to get back because it's going to take him a while to build up his strength. Now McCullers is out in 10 days. Could easily be the rest of the regular season. This is a pitching staff which was already struggling. And you look at what happened to them against Oakland, so they gave up Los Angeles, they gave up 6 runs, 9 runs, 7 runs, 10 runs, 6 runs, only 4, 1, 6. They've been struggling with their pitching lately. It doesn't matter how good their offense is if their pitching continues to be this atrocious. And yes, look at that. You've got another doubleheader tomorrow. So you'll have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in 4 days. That pitching staff is going to be tired. They're going to get 1 day off. And then you hit the Dodgers. The Astros are going to continue to struggle the rest of this week. And that sets things up perfectly because watch what happens with the Mariners. The Giants, who are a solid team, but the Mariners can at least take 1 from them. Then the Mariners play the Diamondbacks, who are the worst team in the NL West. They've been struggling big time. They were sellers at the trade deadline. A couple against Oakland, which, yeah, that's a tough game. And a couple more against San Francisco at home. I would predict that right around this day, the Mariners are in second place in the division. That would mean they would be at least a 6th seed for the playoffs. And I would be willing to bet good amounts of money that they are in second place in the division by this day. But they're not going to make the playoffs, and this is why. Let's side by side this. So it's September 16th, I was saying. We're finishing up this series against San Francisco. We've hit San Francisco, Arizona, a couple games against Oakland, which are tough. And definitely San Francisco's tough. Meanwhile, the Astros play Oakland tomorrow. More days, Oakland. And the Dodgers are easily the best team in baseball. By this point, we'll have caught the Astros. It's only a 2-game lead. However, this is what happens next. This is why we won't make the playoffs. Remember our big run? We've won like 10 in a row against the Rangers, it feels like. 4 in a row now, and I know we won some last week. Why is it not showing me August? Sweep them there. So you've won 7 games against Texas in the last couple weeks. Of course we're rolling. Of course we look great. Thanks. Where did my schedule go? There it is. I didn't need to change the page. But look at what's going to happen here. We move on to San Diego. And they're already playing Texas, Arizona. And they finished the year with Texas. If we finished the year with 7 games against Texas, we would basically say we were going to win those 5 or 6 at least. With the Astros finishing those 7 against Texas, even if they win 4 or 5, that's still in great shape. 2 out of 3 against Arizona, that's nothing to... I mean, that's not too much to expect. These teams are going to be playing their younger players, seeing what they have for next year. It's not like Arizona and Texas are going to go out and compete. Meanwhile, Seattle hits San Diego, and this is at home, and Houston, and that's at home, and that's a huge series. But San Diego, Houston, Oakland. When you're playing San Diego and Oakland for 7, and they're playing Arizona and Texas for 7, I don't care how much the Astros struggle, we will not catch them. Unless we get far enough ahead of them in this next week. And then this series becomes huge at home. Astros making their way to Seattle. It could all come down to that. So if there is a chance for a playoff spot, Seattle absolutely needs to win 2 of these games. They need to hold their own against San Diego, get 1. Maybe get 2. They need to get 2 or 3 from Oakland. Fans are going to show up by Oakland, San Francisco, Arizona. Everything's going to be great. We're going to the playoffs. And then those are going to be the fans saying, the Mariners always blow it at the end of the year. Well, yeah. This is 1/6 of the season right here, by the way, remember. That is the Padres, which are the hottest team in baseball. The Astros, who I know there is a cheating scandal. I know they've got a lot of injuries, but they've got some pride. they're not missing the playoffs this year. And the A's, who have been great all year, it's a doubleheader in there too, so it's not like it's or in here. So your pitching is going to be stretched. It's going to stink. This is the week where people will be saying, this happens every year. They always fall apart. But it's all perfectly in place for us now that happens. Hopefully this helped.